Hello guys, welcome back to Movie Reviews. In this installment we're looking at Police Academy from 1994. Police Academy, the sort of infamous franchise, well, sort of defunct now comedy franchise that's been going on since the 80s and 90s actually, which is quite strange really. Even though it started off as a number one film, they started doing more and more as time goes on, and it goes ridiculously over the top later on really. Let's start with the first one. So 84 this came out and stars Stephen Goldberg. You got Kim Cattrall in here. You've also got a few other familiar faces as well, some great characters as well. Great direction by Hugh Wilson as well, who apparently is meant to be his directorial debut. The only other film I can remember from his filmography is Blast from the Past, if anyone knows that film. So yeah, that's the only film I saw from his filmography. So we've got a few. So the story goes is that various people, you know, decide to go and join the police force, you know, and a few, you know, you've got some guy who works in a little camera store who gets robbed. He ends up joining the police force, you know, and I'm going to join the police force and that sort of stuff. You've got Steve Guttenberg, who's this valet, who's this reckless valet who just keeps taking people's cars and just crashing into death, you know, has a bit of an attitude really. Decides, joins on. Kim Cattrall as well is on board as well. Don't know any of the names unfortunately. She joins on as like she's more like from a wealthy family, and decides to go on. I think for her own right, really. I think actually. And the others, you've also got the guy, I forgot his name, who does like weird noises as well, which is pretty interesting. You know, sort of alarms people with some strange noises that he does with his mouth. Really, again, pretty good stuff, pretty funny stuff in that one. Also, the very tall black fellow as well. I forgot his name, unfortunately. Very, again, great character that is. So they go for the trials and tribulations of actually, you know, training, doing the sort of like the, you know, like going on training, you know, going through what he feels like, what the military do, firearms training they do, and also how to drive a cop car as well. Some not really any of succession with some of them, but also it's to do with you know, Stephen Goldberg's character trying to get him fired really, but behind the scenes, sort of trying to keep it, make him stay, really, more so than ever. Also, we've got two guys as well, which is actually, again, this is a pretty funny gag actually. Going to the film, there's two straight fellas, two, like, I think they're like the sort of antagonists, very much like school bullies in a type of way. They end up hustling or threatening, you know, this fat fellow, of course, and basically says, you know, where's this party at? Because they found out where a party is, and it said this is this club somewhere, and they basically were doing this club, of course, and it's actually it's some gay club they got to, and basically end up stuck there the whole night. If that is right, yeah, it is, yeah. I'm just trying to think. I'm thinking this was Stripes or something. I don't know. No, it's Police Academy. It is. Yeah. So they end up, you know, like being you know, stuck with men for most of the time. Actually, you know, like again, stood there falling asleep as like rocking, like while they're shaking, just doing some slow dancing. Yeah, it's actually pretty hilarious, and it sort of bites back at them at the climax of the film as well, when they sort of flee when the riot is going on. Like a blackout type riot going on, and they basically flee and then for the same club together, same club again actually, which is again a nice little funny joke at the end. It's like not really expected, but from first time watching it, yeah. Obviously with the climax as well, you got Doug Lennox appearing in this film, just one of the hustlers, of course, pointing guns on his face, of course, and it's basically just like he sort of becomes the main protagonist, like the main leader of the rioters, very much at this point, really, which is interesting. Like the more center focus in terms of antagonist is him, really. Indeed, the boy's a good film actually. I do have to admit, I really enjoyed it when I saw it. Obviously, I think they did about 6 more films actually of this thing, which is strange. I know they did one in Russia, there's one in Miami. Stephen Goldberg, I think, did do a couple more. I think he did 2 more actually then duped. But interesting enough. I thought it was just pretty interesting, rough ride, and yeah, pretty good. Police Academy. Right, let's talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, 2018. Not expecting this one, weren't you? You weren't expecting this one to be released with Police Academy, didn't you? Absolutely. So let's go for this. So Spider-Man, produced and I think directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who did the Lego Movie back in the day and also worked on the sequels as well. Obviously, this is a different intake of Spider-Man, actually, so it's a different. So the main sort of protagonist with this one is Miles Morales, who did based around the comics, really, more so. So I spent more light on his character in the movies, and actually very interestingly done, pretty good. So Miles, of course, is like going to a new school. Of course, he ends up, you know, has a police officer who's a dad, as a cop. Father's a cop, actually, and you know, and basically just wants something more interesting, freedom in his life. Obviously hangs about with his uncle, his dad's brother, who's basically a bit more reckless, a bit more criminal-esque, really, and yeah, it's just like, you know, one of those things, and then he ends up being bitten by a spider, a different type of spider, actually, that's been from a dimensional tear, and obviously ends up like something's been going on, like dimensional tears have been going around different places, really, around the city, and he comes across Peter Parker, who's basically this sort of like middle-aged loser, really, at this point, who's basically divorced from marriage. He did get married and end up putting a lot of weight on. He spent a lot on junk food, just like, you know, sort of deteriorating as a slob, really. More of a slobbish type Spider-Man, really. Obviously, in the beginning of the film, it sort of cuts to him, actually, taking on Kingpin, who's actually had this new dimensional thing that he obtains, really. And plans to basically just use it, really, but ends up being thwarted by Spider-Man. You know, Peter Parker Spider-Man. And yeah, it just goes into some interesting stuff, really, with it, really. Let's just go for the other ones, of course. There's different types of it. I forgot the names, actually, but I know some of them I've forgotten. You know, obviously, we've got Spider-Gwen, of course, Gwen Stacy, who's basically been bitten by a spider, who basically meets Miles in that sort of at the beginning of the film, really, but it's actually the same one, really, apparently. Yeah, so she's like undercover, or like, you know, I know you were here, I know you were, or something like that, really. I think how it goes. Again, sort of like there's a bit of some confusing moments in it, but again, the whole thing with dimensional stuff and time and everything else, it's like, interesting. Yeah, we also got to Nicolas Cage as well. He plays the noir version of Spider-Man. Interestingly, I mean, he's pretty good, actually. I mean, Nick Cage is always good in most stuff, really. You always get something interesting out of his performance. You got Spider-Ham as well, who's basically this Lucian's version of Spider-Man, of course. Peter Porker, you know it as. Just a pig, very snotty nose and everything else. Very sort of, again, very interestingly done. Again, from the comics as well. They're all based on comics. I think Chris and Phil Miller must have a list of different types of variations, of course. There is quite a lot of variations of Spider-Man in this one. Again, different types. So, and the last one, of course, is like this Japanese girl and this spider robot, really. Interestingly done. So it's like a duo, that is. So, yeah. Obviously, they have to band together and basically stop dimensional tear, of course. You have reintroductions of villains as well. You have Green Goblin as well, and so like this muscular, hulkish beast, really, which is interesting. Always preferred him as Osborn, really. You got Dr. Octavius, but now as a woman. He basically is like I don't know, like different types of tentacles, like robotic tentacles, which are interesting. Kingpin as well. So you do have some interesting Spider-Man villains, of course, like who are done like a twist. Interesting, very interestingly done as well. Animation-wise, it is absolutely very good, very interestingly done. Really good, actually, because it's so. I mean, it's quite 3D, but it's also steps into the 2D as well. It's like a bit weird mixed, really, but it's actually really very interesting. Like a more comic book-esque, really. I think that's what that main idea was, making more comic book-esque. And yeah, pretty good. Really good stuff, actually. Obviously, one main revelation is that Miles' uncle is actually one of the main villains that sort of hunts him down. And when it comes to the realization is, you know, like, oh, it's my nephew. It's like he's sort of like that sort of thing. Like, you know, but you're Spider-Man, aren't you? Indeed. You know, but except ends up being killed and everything else. I think his dad sort of blames Spider-Man for it as well. That's like what some people probably do, actually, in some stuff. You know, like, it's like the Chris Nolan films, of course. You know, like, they sort of, you know, blame him for Harvey Dent's murder, really. Of course, you know, at the end of The Dark Knight and leading to The Dark Knight Rises, really. So it's like, that's not really a new thing, really, but it's like, a sort of thing, you know, like, damn you, Spider-Man, you kill my brother, that sort of thing. It's like, you know, and the authorities might go after him, who knows. But yes, it's interestingly done. Yeah, so that's our family angle. That's actually pretty good. That is, you know, like some an interesting twist really on that one. Anything else to go on? Oh yeah, the ending bit. I thought that was actually pretty good. Was it Spider-Man 2099? What's it called? He's called Nico, I think. He's on Nikolai or something. You know, the main who plays Spider-Man, of course. Ends up going back. You know, ends up going back in time, finds a dimensional. I think so, actually. Like, ends up going back. Really, you think, you know, there's plenty more of us. Let's just go back, actually. And he ends up going back to the 1960s, of course, like in the old 60s Spider-Man cartoon, and they end up having a finger off or like a showdown, really, at the end. It's like is it like I'm Spider-Man? You know, that's been gift for how long, really, since the film came out. And it's like, well, something interesting, really. I think it's pretty, you know, again, pop culture, again, the internet just sort of does that really well, actually. I have to admit, again, it's like, I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good film, but actually, I think I've probably seen it beforehand, that sort of gift, you know, the memes and stuff of it. But again, a pretty interesting end for that. That's the post-credit scene, that is, really. But again, it's a really good film. It's a really good Spider-Man movie, because I only ever seen the Sam Raimi films, you know, that he did in the 2000s. I remember seeing those and enjoying them as much, you know, like, I haven't seen them for a long time, though. I didn't see the Andrew Garfield ones. I never saw them. I know my parents saw the first one, but I never saw them, really. I don't really know. I just feel like, yeah, really? I don't know. I never saw the Tom Holland films either, you know, Homecoming and Far From Home as well, so just don't know, really. I just don't really feel like it's there as much, you know. It's like, I've seen Spider-Man beforehand, you know. I've seen the animated TV for the 90s as well. That's good. I remember that absolutely. I don't know. I just really feel like revisiting Spider-Man in the movie form until I saw Into Spider-Verse. Again, interesting stuff. I mean, Mark Kermode reviewed this back at the time, and he does reference. I think he may also reference Doctor Who as well. Of course, like different versions of the same character, really, just like done in different ways. Again, it's all plays on that as well, actually, you know. But it has a good story to it, very good animation, great characters as well, great voice cast as well. Do a fantastic job, and people are clamoring for a sequel, and I'll be interested, actually. Be interested to see what they can do with that. You know, there'll be various other Spider-Men, of course, that will come out. You know, you get Miles Morales and Peter Parker, and maybe get 4 different types. Who knows? I'll have to wait and see about that. You know, if it happened, if it's just a one-off, that's absolutely fine, because they've done it, and you know, just do what they can do, really. Thought it'd be interesting. Nothing else to say about this one, but there we go. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I've been talking about Police Academy from 1984 and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018. Thank you very much. See you later.